Hello and welcome to another episode of Anatomy of a Hustler. I'm Cope.
I'm Jenise.
Today we're with the one and only Chris Slangin Fades. There's three men in a man's life that they should trust the most. Priest, his best friend, none more important than his barber though.
That's me.
That's who we got here on the chair
Thank
with
you for
us
having
today.
me, guys. Appreciate it.
So I'm so excited to talk to you because I think the two things that stood out to me, we talked about this earlier, is that you own a barbershop, a brick and mortar in Sacramento, and when you told me that you opened shop in 2018, that you survived the pandemic.
I did, yeah, we made it through.
So will you walk us back one?
Do you want to go back to the opening of the barbershop, like why I did it, or do you want to go to the pandemic first?
Let's go to the-
Let's go back.
Let's go back.
Yeah, let's go
So
back.
I used to work at an amazing barbershop downtown called Bottle and Barlow, owned by Anthony Gennati, downtown Sacramento. Worked there for a couple of years, and I quickly realized the reason I got into barbering was I wanted to work for myself. So found a place where I can start putting my money into, creating a palette of my own, started paying rent, started remodeling the whole place, and decided I wanted to make the jump and just kind of work for myself. Me and a good buddy opened it up back in 2018, and it's been blessed ever since. We've been rocking and rolling since September 2018.
Have you always had your eyes set on being like a barber?
No, it was, I got towards the end of my 20s and I was managing restaurants at the time and just kind of thought to myself, like, okay, I don't want to do this forever. I don't want to make money for other people for the rest of my life. So what skill can I learn? What trade do I have kind of in my back pocket that I can get a little better at? And decided to go through barber school, and yeah, the rest worked out. I got lucky, it worked out.
What do you mean you got lucky? Can you explain why you feel like lucky?
It's really only the third job I've ever had. I worked at a family-owned and operated pizza place out in Elk Grove, and then I worked for a fast casual restaurant, and then I just kind of took the leap and went to barber school. And so this is the only the third job I've ever had in my life.
Third time's a charm.
Yeah.
Can you say which fast casual
Yeah,
place?
it's called Freebird's World Burritos. They're not in California
yep.
anymore. But yeah, Freebird's World Burritos. It's like a fast casual, kind of like a Chipotle, but a little more fun. It was more fun, yeah.
It was more fun.
A little more lively than Chipotle.
Yeah. And then so you had opened your barbershop in 2018 and it went smoothly, right? You make it sound like it was super easy.
No, it wasn't easy at all. It was, lots of late nights. I was still working at the other barbershop all day, making money to go spend on building my new barbershop and working there till 2, 3 in the morning. It was not easy at all. We did the whole thing from the ground up. Poured the concrete ourselves, did the drywall ourselves, did the electrical ourselves. I completely did the whole thing, built by hand. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Not many people can say that they do that.
Yeah.
And so after that happened, the pandemic, that changes a lot of things. California has a lot of really strict, restrictions.
Yeah, they got really tight on us really fast. My business partner moved away at the very end of 2019, December 2019. So I rolled into 2020 with a new barber, someone who just got out of barber school and not my right-hand man anymore, like not my buddy anymore. So I was already kind of nervous of how I was going to make this all work out. And then early March, I think it was, within the next day, like you can't be open today. So yeah, it was pretty intense. I wasn't sure what to do at first, but just kind of reached out to my clients and asked, like, hey, if you guys still need haircuts and you still feel comfortable, like, I'm still gonna keep working. They said everyone who wasn't, in what's the word they use for it? Essential for their business had to go home. And as me as a barber, I'm the most essential person to my business. So
Can you attest to that?
I kind of took it that way. That's how I
wouldn't be camera ready if it wasn't for my guy.
So the pandemic came in, you survived by loyal clients, or did you have to make some pivots?
Definitely had to make some pivots. Right around that same time, Sacramento had a lot of the BLM riots that were going down, and a lot of just chaos going down downtown. So there's times where my business was boarded up, where I couldn't even go cut hair if I wanted to, if people wanted a haircut. So just kind of had to pivot, did some house calls, went to people's houses, stopped at apartments, went to other people's offices, anything I could really do to make sure that I was able to keep my lights on at my brick and mortar. I had to do anything that I could really.
Did you have a team at the time?
It was just me and John, who just opened his own barbershop downtown. He just got out of school and he was kind of trying to figure it out himself. He didn't really have a clientele yet to come down and cut for, so I was pretty much riding solo for the first chunk of the pandemic, yeah.
Can I ask, Anthony, you came from him, and he birthed you, basically. He launched your barbershop.
I owe a lot of what it was my barbershop.
Yeah.
It was all my pie, but I owe a lot of what I do to Anthony.
And so how does it feel when you have someone that was part of your barbershop, even through the pandemic, and start their own?
I was super proud of him. Yeah, he went off and he just opened, it's called Take Care Sacramento. It's right off J and 25th, 24th, I believe. Small little 3-chair shop. So I'm super proud of him. Yeah, he kind of just did what I did, and yeah. It was very, very rewarding to kind of see him grow up and blossom.
Do you think barbering is like very competitive, or do you feel like because of the way the community is? Like...
Some people make it competitive. Some people let their ego get involved, and some people put a lot of pride within like client retention. They take it personal if somebody doesn't like the haircut and goes to try a different barber. I don't view it that way. There's plenty of people in Sacramento's hair to cut. There's a ton of people here who get haircuts, so I don't take it as a competitive thing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
One thing that has always stood out to me is your network. You're so well respected. I feel like you can't go out in Sacramento without running into someone that you either already cut their hair or at the very least just knows who you are. What do you think you can attribute that to, or what's some advice you can give to someone that's trying to build their network?
Trying to build their network? Listen. Like, take genuine interest in what the people you're interacting with do. I didn't really I don't think I build my network by trying to see, okay, what can I get out of this person? How are they going to better build my network? But more of, oh, I know a guy that does fences. I have another client that needs a fence built, and intertwining those people and using me as kind of a median to interact and build my network that way. So that's the tool that probably worked best for me. And then just being genuine, just actually getting to know people, I don't think there's a reason that you could walk around downtown and people talk about me, and hopefully without a sour tongue. I like to think I had not too many people out there.
I couldn't sit there and listen if they were being sour.
Yeah, I would hope so. But just be nice to people.
That's it. That's the business plan.
Just
be nice.
Be nice, man. Just be kind to people. Yeah.
So, how would you define hustle? Like, it sounds like this is something that you've done your entire life almost.
Yeah, I started working when I was 14 years old. I started doing dishes in the back of the pizza place, because I needed money. I grew up from like a very little to no means family, so as soon as I was old enough to start contributing, it was time to go. It was time to get to work. Yeah. So I guess my definition of hustle, just what's the actual definition? Like, to move forcibly towards a direction that you want, I think is probably close to that. But yeah, you move with, you get up and go. You add a little bit of hustle to it. You start moving faster. So just knowing when it's time to turn it up a notch, when it's time to like, okay, I really got to focus. I really got to work to get to this next plateau. And then you can kind of take a breath and realize, okay, what direction do I want to go next? Yeah. And once you have that next direction, okay, it's time to start hustling that way.
So where do you feel like you're at in that kind of like cyclical part of hustling?
I really feel like I just kind of came to a nice, healthy plateau. The last few years, like I said, I opened up in 2018. A year and a few months into my business, I get hit. I have to shut down. My business partner leaves, and I have to shut down. I spent a few years kind of surviving through the pandemic, and we just kind of got out and got fully back open. And now I'm finally able to just enjoy the fruits of my labor. Like the business I should have been enjoying for the last 2 years, I'm finally at that point now. So right now, I just kind of want to sit back and like watch my baby grow and just watch it do its thing.
How big is your team right now?
I have me and 3 other barbers.
And do you impart kind of like the wisdom that you are talking about now about like being genuine to when you have other team members? Like, do you tell them about that?
I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by one of my best friends that I've been best friends with for like 13 years. He started apprenticing under me a couple years ago, and so he's a barber in the shop now. Adrian Valentine, I worked with at Bottle and Barlow. We've become really good friends over the last 5 years. And then Alicia, she's our other barber. She was the one who kind of got me into barbering. So these are all like family to me. It's not just like coworkers. These are all people that I brought in because it's my space at the end of the day. It's kind of like my clubhouse, and I didn't want to just bring people in just to fill a seat, just to get rent off somebody. I wanted to bring people in who I could help kind of have a home base where they could feel comfortable and start like taking care of their own life by not, finally have a place where they can just kind of sit and enjoy the fruits of their labor too.
So you're talking about building a culture right now. That's really what it is.
I'm trying to, yeah. I try to.
Did you have like a guideline or like a vision of what that culture was, or is it just like these kind of little things that you've like values that you've kind of like stacked on?
It's probably just values. I mean, I'm still maturing myself. Like, I'm changing who I am daily, weekly, yearly. So as I've kind of grown up and matured and become a business owner, and so now I would look myself, okay, you own a business now. It's time to grow up a little bit. It's time to act a little more mature. So my values change, and the way I approach business change and approach people change. So I've just been kind of evolving my culture and my business as I've been growing up. It's kind of growing with me. And
on the opposite end, what's something that like is a value that you're just like, as soon as someone has that value, or like, do you get what I'm saying? Hold on. It's like on the opposite end, when you meet somebody and you realize that they don't share the same values, what's typically the thing that's like, this is not aligned with my values?
I've been pretty fortunate enough to not have to draw a hard line in the sand, at least in my barbershop, but just negativity. Like, you know, like you could either, things are going to happen to you in life. You could either look at them the silver lining way or the negative way and let it ruin your day. And so I try, not everything I take with like a positive note, but I try my best to make sure I try to look at things the positive way. So I try to keep negative people out of the shop. You don't want anyone in there just kind of hating for no reason, just being angry and upset with life. I don't really like to have that in my environment.
I feel like that's important for like all businesses.
Most businesses,
is
yeah.
like trying to find good people. And I hate to chalk it up to like they had a good vibe, but like really it's like, do they share the same values
No,
as
I
you?
completely agree with you. Like as moving up through like my jobs before Freebirds, one thing or during Freebirds is I realized is as a good worker, as a good employee, someone who showed up every day ready to work and ready to accomplish a task, I was the commodity. They couldn't sell any burritos without good workers showing up. So once I realized that I myself am the reason this business is succeeding, not just me in general, all the good workers that I had, then I was like, why don't I just do that for myself? Why don't I just work for myself instead of being a good worker for somebody else's business?
Speaking of that and what you've learned along the way, what was one thing that stood out to you that you were just completely caught off guard by jumping from renting a chair to then moving into your own space?
It's just kind of like overwhelming. Like I don't have a child of mine, but eventually like I had a baby. Like this is all me now. I'm responsible for all of it. So, you know, it's just, there's so many little things that can fill a whole checklist of like the stuff you have to do that I didn't have that checklist in front of me. So I was kind of building it as I went. Like I didn't even know I needed light switch covers when I first started, you know, little things like that you don't even think about as you're building the business up. It's like, oh yeah, I probably should get something like that. So just evolving on the fly. And you've seen the shop, you're in there week one. It's completely changed. We started off with just 2 chairs and then John got added before Mason left. So I had to build another 3rd chair. So I had to completely alter like the whole layout of the shop. And now I'm up to 4 chairs now. So just being fluid, being able to evolve and change on the fly, like if you need to, is crucial because you can't be like super stuck. At least for me, if I was just stuck in my ways, like, no, that's not going to work, then, you know, I wouldn't have had other people in my shop helping carry me through the back end of the pandemic by, you know, renting space from me.
Have you ever had a moment like that where you like were stuck in your ways and had to learn how to like, because adaptability is something I feel like people like it's a skill they learn as they make mistakes. Was there something
I definitely consider myself stubborn at some point in my life. Yeah, I've been stubborn. I've been hot-headed. I've gotten fights in the workplace before. Like I've completely matured. Like I said, I started working when I was 14. So I went through my adolescence, through my young 20s, through my early 30s, like working with other people. So I've had every moment under the sun of, you know, one week I'm stubborn, one week I'm, you know, probably too giving and not being stubborn enough, letting people walk all over me. So I'm still new to this. I'm still growing myself and figuring it out as I go too.
Will you unpack that a little bit about not being stubborn enough? Like stubbornness, I think, is a good trait. Maybe that's my own personality. I think one time there was this job interview I went through and like she was like, well, what would your, because my mom was my boss at the time, I was like, what would your mom say? And I was like, she would call me stubborn. And then I was like, why did that leave my mouth? And she said, you know, stubborn puppies make good something, like they make good dogs later on.
Yeah. For me personally, I'm probably just too much of, if somebody needs my help, and there's a way that I could do it, I'll do everything I can to try to help them, which is a good quality, which I don't want to lose. But what I tend to do is I tend to ignore the stuff that I should be taking care of for myself, and that eventually catches up to me on the back end. I spread myself a little too thin, you know, like moving from my shop from 2 chairs to 4 chairs, making extra room so other people that needed a place to come work could come work. You know, doing that in the middle of a pandemic while I'm barely making rent and deciding, oh, now's a great time to buy a whole new station and like invest more money into this business when I'm not even sure if I'm going to make it. So that's one thing I think I need to work on moving forward, is just kind of promising too much to people. Yeah.
And is that personal? It's not just business.
Oh, that
like a little
transcends my personal life and my business life. Yeah.
I mean, you can relate, right? Like
So much.
you guys are both entrepreneurs and you both have people that you take care of.
Yep.
You have people, like you're trying to take care of yourself and you're trying to take care of a business.
Yeah.
What are ways that you find balance, or if you've had a chance to find that balance?
Finding balance. I'm in the process of finding balance. I think it's just trial and error. Like, you know, there's going to be things that come across the table where I'm probably going to second guess whether I should like stretch myself a little thin again. And knowing myself, I probably will do it again. Yeah. But I'll, you know, when it comes, hopefully it works out next time. I learn my lessons from the time before to not make the same mistakes again, you know, not stretch myself out, but not too thin.
Totally understand. Do you have mentors right now?
I do. I have like a ton of guys that come down and sit in my chair. They're very well respected businessmen in Sacramento, guys who I've been able to pick their brains before. You know, hey, I'm thinking about starting my own barbershop. What are some tips? What are some things I need to know? So I have a ton of mentors. Growing up, it was Larry and Brian, the two guys who owned the pizza place that I worked for growing up. They taught me all that. Once I got to my second job at Freebirds, my good buddy Jamal was my boss at the time, and he kind of showed me the ropes through that. So I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by like successful guys, and I'm not afraid to pick someone's brain and ask questions like, hey, how did you get to where you are? What can I learn from you? What are some tricks that I could apply?
Seems like a very consistent theme in like your growth.
Yeah, I'm always a sponge. I try to pick people's brains all the time.
Yeah, one of the things that we share is like thirst for knowledge and personal development. So every time I pay him, it's usually book club, because we're talking about like what are we reading, what are we listening to, and there's always like little gems we pull from each other on what we're learning. Yeah,
Cope's one of the guys that I look up to, and yeah.
Thank you, I appreciate that. As someone that's also working to receive compliments, I appreciate that, bro. But I was gonna ask, is there any one lesson that stood out to you from looking back on some of those mentors that you had?
Yeah, Doug Elements, who owns a PR firm here in Sacramento, he just kind of told me like, you're gonna have ups and downs. Like there's gonna be days where you don't want to do this. There's gonna be days where you feel like you're getting battered by the storm, but like just keep going. Like you're either gonna make it through or you're not gonna make it. But if you give up and like stop trying to make it work, then you have your answer already. So Doug's been a huge mentor of mine.
That's such a good quote.
Yeah, that's not. I don't think that's my quote. I don't think that's exactly what he said. But just along those lines, yeah. You know, like things are like the pandemic happened. My business partner left. Like other things are gonna happen. So just kind of be prepared for it. Be ready for it. Don't be super stubborn and set in your ways, so that when things happen, you can't adjust to it. And just stay fluid.
Stay fluid. Yeah. So adaptability, asking a lot of questions. Something that I see in a lot of entrepreneurs is like their risk tolerance, basically. It sounds like you've taken a lot of like that jump from, being a manager of a fast food place to straight up entrepreneurship.
I walked out of a salary job. I quit like at night. I wrote him a note. I was like, sorry, I can't do this anymore. I walked away from my salary, my benefits,
the
all
moment
that,
you realized?
Yeah, it just kind of hit me one day. I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like I have to go try at least something.
And did you know you were going to go to like barbershop school?
It was one of the things like, hey, if I quit, like this is an option, this is an option. There's a few things, but it was high on the list of like, that might be the direction I go when this all settles down.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Like you didn't even know what your 5-year plan was.
I just knew I didn't want to do that anymore.
And that was enough to push you over the edge.
Enough, yeah.
And do you feel like you come to a lot of those like moments where you're taking these giant leaps, or is this like the first big leap?
I'm trying to get better at approaching my leaps, like recognizing leaps before they come. Like I don't want to just run blindly up to all the cliffs in my life.
Yeah.
But, as I'm growing up and becoming older and getting more mature, I think when I get approached with big questions in life, I'd like to think that I'm getting better at handling it, and I don't want to make the same mistakes twice. So just try to,
So good. I can see why you and Cope get along very well. Yeah. Like yours is personality. Yeah.
And I could thank him in return. Yeah, there's a lot of, like I said, it's half a joke in the intro that you should be able to trust like 3 men in your circle, and your barber being one is absolutely crucial, because he's seen me highs, lows, and definitely with fucked up hair, but he's always been able to take care of me or pull something or provide me with something in a way that it's hard to recreate in a 30-minute conversation with just anyone, right?
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Like you've seen me highs and lows too. You've come in the shop and seen me dealing with stuff outside of work where I'm in tears and like, all right, man, like I just need a hug right now. Things happen. So I'm very fortunate enough to be surrounded by a big circle of guys, around my age and women too, who are just like my community, who all care about me and I all care about them. So it's really a very rewarding job, and that's one thing I didn't anticipate when getting into hair. Was the connections I was going to build and the friendships I was going to build and the rewarding spot I get to be in, because guys come in and they get a haircut, and then when I turn them around, they feel better about themselves. Yeah. So they get that burst of serotonin. I feel good about myself, and they equate me with the guy who makes them feel better about themselves. And that's a really cool place to take up in people's lives. Yeah.
So what's next for you specifically?
For me specifically, like I said, I'm finally at a space where I can kind of just sit back and enjoy the fruits of my labor. Like I've made it through the pandemic, I made it through the storm. I had a couple other, off the field things that I had to deal with and kind of settle in my life. And I'm finally at a place now where I've built a successful business. It's healthy, it's thriving, it's getting busier every day. And I kind of want to just sit back and enjoy the fruits of my labor for a little bit. And when the next thing is ready, it'll present itself. And as long as I'm, paying attention to the opportunities that come in front of me, like it'll come eventually.
That's awesome.
Universe provides.
The universe provides, yeah. That's kind of my flow.
I think what I love about your story is that like we're trying to redefine what hustle means. And sometimes it's like, I have this big plan to take over and be a Fortune 500 company. But right now in your life, success looks like peace almost.
Yeah,
like getting to the point of, what's it called, the peak of the mountain.
Yeah, and I'm a pretty humble guy. Like I don't need a lot. I don't need a Ferrari. I don't need gold. I don't need jewelries. And I'm not knocking those things. Like some people want those things, but me personally, I don't need it. So I'm fortunate enough to where I've built a career now where I'll be able to provide for myself for the rest of my life as long as I, stay healthy and keep cutting hair. Like I've reached a good career. I'm not at the top of the mountain, but I'm at a healthy place where I can build a really strong foundation for the back half of my life now that I'm in my 30s. So just kind of solidifying that foundation a little more. Like I'm busy, but I could always be busier. The shop could always be busier. So once I feel like the shop is busting at the gills, then it'll probably be time to be like, okay, like what do I need to look for next?
That's awesome. Yeah. There's a lot of peace in that, I feel like.
It is. It's something I'm working on. Just trying to be in the moment and just go day by day.
Is there anything that you would want to maybe speak on or some words of wisdom that you would want to provide to someone that's maybe really earlier in their career or in their journey that may be following a similar path to you?
Yeah, one thing that I wish I would have known sooner was kind of just that narrowing my focus. Instead of working on 7 different things at one time and not being able to give 100% of the energy that product requires. Like, if I would have approached my barbershop and 7 other things at one time, I wouldn't have been able to put enough energy in my barbershop to make it a successful barbershop. So what I see a lot is a lot of entrepreneurs are like, I have 7 different things that I'm doing.
That's what they're selling, right?
That's what you're selling. Like, look at all these different things I do.
Diversification.
Yeah, so maybe just focus on one thing really intently. Like master one craft really well, and then move on to the next step and give that one thing that you do 100% of your attention, because then you're gonna get the best product you can get that you're able to produce. Awesome. Yeah, but that goes with lots of things, not just business. Like, if you're trying to start a family and go to college and start a career all at the one time, like one of those things is going to suffer. Mm-hmm. So just be patient with yourself. Like you're trying to build right now, so give yourself a break.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Will you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Will you look at the camera and tell people your name, your business, and like what you're known for?
My name is Chris Long. I'm the owner of Tailored Style and Image, which is a barbershop in downtown Sacramento, and I'm known for giving really good haircuts and just making friends.
And being an incredible human, 100%.
Yeah, I'm trying to be.
100%.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting with us. That was like really short, sweet, and like to the point. And honestly, I learned a little bit about balance. I think that's my next goal, like investing in
if I could provide you a little bit of balance, then I feel good.
Yeah.
That's what I came here to do. That's perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Are you clapping? We can clap it.
Thank you guys.